Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. Today's success story, our Free Zone Success Stories transformation of entrepreneurs, is someone that I really talk to a lot. And his name is Mark O'Donnell. And Mark is, one of those serial type entrepreneurs, got it in his blood early and been with it. But I know Mark because he's been in coach for 8 years. He belongs to a collaborative organization called EOS, which is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which we recommend that all strategic coach clients get in as the structure and the process for growing their team, their self-managing company. We see this as an absolute no-brainer. This is an absolute slam dunk, created by an entrepreneur by the name of Gino Wickman, who has been in my workshop for 24 years. And he created this alternate program, like a support program for entrepreneurial owners, that they would have their team constantly growing and improving their teamwork, their productivity, their creativity. And this is a separate structure. And Gino was very careful when he started on this project that, he wasn't crossing into our territory. And so it was created over like a 15-year period as he came to workshop after workshop, and we compared notes. And about 3 years ago, I said, you've done such a great job here. Why don't we just recommend each other? Why don't we just have a pure collaboration that we'll say to all of our strategic coach entrepreneurs, owners of the businesses, that, if you really want to grow and you really want to free yourself up and you want to have the right who's who do the right hows, we recommend that you bring in an implementer from the EOS organization to work with your team. That's our pitch. And their pitch is to all the entrepreneurs that they have as customers, that they work with the teams of those entrepreneurs. They say, you should go to strategic coach for yourself. The entrepreneur will coach your team, but you should go because you have to move from being a manager now to being a leader. And strategic coach will strengthen and sharpen all your leadership skills and will develop management skills in your team to free you up so that you can just work on your unique ability and grow your future. So really great. Just a perfect fit. It's been massive. I think we've got 200 or 300 strategic coach clients now who now have EOS as their organizational operating system. And, we've had getting up near 100 referrals of entrepreneurs have come into strategic coach, including a lot of their implementers. And Mark is an implementer. 2 of our clients who were in strategic coach became the number one visionary for the EOS company and the integrator. That's that marvelous system that EOS has, where there's somebody that's got the vision and there's the person who integrates the vision into all the management structures. So Kelly Knight is the implementer, and Kelly is in strategic coach in the 10 times program. And so I just felt that it would be really great if every month we just touch base. So 60 minutes to 90 minutes every month we get together and we talk about our growth in strategic coach and we talk about their growth. And we're both worldwide organizations. Zoom saw to that, over the last 2 years, we both benefited enormously from the exponential capability of Zoom, which took us from basically regional or national companies. And then we became global companies. So we've got a lot of common topics and a lot of issues and interests that totally overlap with each other. So it's a great conversation. But Mark is just a marvelous person. And he's from Philadelphia area, town on the west side, going out a bit near Pottstown, Sinking Spring. That's a very interesting name. That's a name, if you're from there, you don't forget it for the rest of your life, that you came from Sinking Spring, But I was just there for a personal reason. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been in the western suburbs of Philadelphia for kind of a hobby project that Babs and I are doing, which we'll talk about at another time. But this is really great just to talk about Mark. And Mark, tells a story that entrepreneurism may be in your blood, but you may not know the ropes to being an entrepreneur in a way that we really explore in Strategic Coach, is that it's a 360-degree pursuit that you're having. First of all, being an entrepreneur is a life sentence, most entrepreneurs start very young when they're in grade school or high school, and they're out earning money on their own, and they have this great desire to be independent, economically independent. And they know that if they're going to have greater freedom in their life, they have to have their own business, and they have to make their own money, and they have to pay for every bit of extra freedom of time, freedom of money, freedom of relationship, freedom of purpose. Mark talks about that, of having created a company that just grew so fast that parts of his life were great as far as his business life, but personal life, it caused tremendous tensions. And of course, that's Strategic Coach. I mean, that's what we do. It's the whole person that we're interested in. It's your whole life. It's your business life, but you freed up in your business just to do what you absolutely love doing and what all of your team members want you doing. If you want to know what your unique ability is, just ask your team members. They'll tell you what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing.
So I'm Mark O'Donnell, visionary at EOS Worldwide. I've been in Strategic Coach for going on 8 years now. I've been at EOS, or been part of EOS, for a little over 7 years at this point. Started out as a certified EOS implementer, became head coach, and then ultimately became visionary in September of 2020. Prior to that, I had an entrepreneurial business in the pharma and healthcare space as an engineer, building and scaling a professional services business. And I did that for about 10 years. So I was an engineer for a big pharma company, and I was getting a little bored. So this is 2007, and the supply closet started to dry up, and I was working on projects that were getting defunded, and it just was kind of boring compared to what I was used to. And so I jumped in 2007, starting that first business with my brother. And we went from the two of us to over 25 people in the first 6 months. It was growing fast, and just living the entrepreneurial life is exciting. I'm a 10 quick start. And so it sort of lit that up. I mean, you think about 10 quick start engineer, how'd that work? Actually pretty well, oddly. So as we were growing the business, we weren't quite prepared for cash flow. And, people would say cash flow is the lifeblood of an entrepreneurial business. But we didn't really understand that until it was happening. We had all of these employees, we're growing very, very fast. And we found ourselves waiting at the mailbox for checks to come in from clients so we can make payroll, and all the stress that came with that. We also noticed that our family and friends, we started to really separate from them, where our lives were not the same as their lives were. We're growing a business, we're flying around the world, and started to become a little bit lonely. And that was one thing that we totally did not expect. We did not expect that with our entrepreneurial journey, just to have this complete sense of living a life that was different than everyone else. We were always able to sell, and that was one thing that kept us going. We were always able to get new projects. We were always able to grow the company. Finding people to do the work and staying sane at the same time was probably the hardest parts of the stages of the entrepreneurial journey. The first thing that we did is we found an entrepreneurial network to really just be with people who are experiencing the same things that we were experiencing, that were walking the same footsteps that we were walking in. Because of that sense of being lonely, and the friends that used to have their shoulder to cry on or talk things through were no longer available because our lives were no longer applicable. And so we got connected to an entrepreneurial community. And we started sharing tips and ideas with one another and then testing them out in our own entrepreneurial business, which was extraordinarily useful, extraordinarily helpful. That helped us get through it, helped us tweak our profit margins to increase our margins so we could have a little cushion on cash flow, got us relationships with bankers. And a starting business, sometimes, at least in those days, cash was hard to come by. And so we were able to establish those relationships to get lines of credit and continue growing the organization. So our business was a people-heavy business in terms of we would get a project, we'd go hire a person to fill that project. And so they were billing the client. And so there's really no hesitation to hire anyone because that's how we grew our company. However, I will tell you there's one instance that every single person in our company was billable to a client until one day I got a call from my sister-in-law that said my brother was in the hospital. And I'm like, okay, so why is he in the hospital? And it turns out that the stress of making payroll, the stress of billing clients, of doing all the accounting and the bookkeeping and doing the administrative work for our company was just too stressful, too much things. It was him operating way outside of his unique ability. And so that was the point in time where we decided that we needed to delegate those tasks that were outside of his sweet spot and hire a full-time assistant to start pushing all those things over to her to free him up to go and work with clients and do the work that we were hired to do. And I think most entrepreneurs, especially most really visionary entrepreneurs, they're generally not great at management, but they're great at leadership. So I've been always really good at climbing the tree and looking out and saying, hey, company, this is where we're going. Hey, team, this is where we're going. But then the day-to-day details of the management and making sure that everyone has what they need to get the job done, I haven't really focused much on that. And so my brother kind of did those types of things for me, sort of cleaned up the messes behind me. And fast forward, I had another business partner that would do a lot of that detailed type work. And now at EOS Worldwide, I have Kelly Knight, who is my integrator. And so in EOS, we have integrator concept, which is the person who is partnering with the visionary to do a lot of the management and the components that a typical visionary isn't so good at. So they can live in their unique ability, their God-given talent. I am living in my unique ability every single day. I have the fortune of having Kelly Knight as my integrator, like I mentioned. We have an entire leadership team, and they are all just really, really good at what they do, which frees me up to explore and do research and development and test things on check writers, making sure that we have all of the systems and processes and people in place for our future and to really make the impact that we want to make on the world. There's a story that goes along with that. And so to take you back to my original company that I started with my brother, we then merged with two other business partners. We merged and bought other companies, started other companies. And I think we had 9 companies at the time. And one of my business partners said to me, hey, it would be great if we could operate these things in a consistent, cohesive manner. And so we were all a little frustrated, succeeding in spite of ourselves. And so we just went on a search. I just went on a search. I read a bunch of books. That's when I first learned about Strategic Coach, when I first learned about EOS, read the book Traction by Gino Wickman. And I started implementing some of these tools in my company, myself. And so 9 companies, I figured I would implement these tools to kind of create and harmonize, and create this cohesive feel throughout the organization, the common language that we can all operate on because we're spread out all over the world. And so I started implementing EOS in my companies. I figured out pretty quickly it was like Dr. Heal Thyself. People were just sort of like, hey, just tell us what to do, or what do you want this to be? And that was not my intent. My intent of implementing EOS was just to help them run their part of the business better, not for me to tell them what to do, because that was not a scalable thing. That's not how we wanted to run our business. So we hired an EOS implementer, and he started implementing with our team. And it created a tremendous amount of, we'll call it strife. It's probably a good one. Issues, however you want to call it, because what EOS did for us was it shined a light on all the issues that were on in the business that we just put under the rug because we were profitable, we were growing, and all those sins of the past were coming to the forefront. But what it also did is it helped me know what my unique ability is and how I wanted to spend my life. And it was helping entrepreneurs get what they want from their businesses. To be an entrepreneur myself, yes, but really my target market, the people who I've been put on this earth to uniquely serve, are entrepreneurs. And so I became an EOS implementer, unintentionally at first. I just went to EOS boot camp and started to implement with other clients, companies that I didn't own, and was just getting just a tremendous amount of satisfaction and results from doing that. Still running my company. So I think we had about 175 employees total at that time, around 9 companies in various parts of a vertically integrated pharmaceutical services company, and found Strategic Coach. And I will tell you that my second session, so I did the signature program first, I bumped up to 10X after one session. I was sitting in my workshop with one of my business partners, and it was in that workshop that I made the decision that I would exit the day-to-day of that company that I built and pursue being an EOS implementer. And so that's what I did. And that was 2014, 2015, then moved to exit the day-to-day, finished that in 2015, and kind of made a clean break from the day-to-day of that company, still was on the board. Ultimately, we sold those companies to a private equity group, which included my former partners, by 2018, and really haven't looked back since. Really, I can say that every important decision that I've made over the last 8 years has come inside of a Strategic Coach workshop. I don't know if it's just the time by yourself, thinking about your thinking, if it's people that are in the group with you, sort of rubbing off on you. But it's really just that time with your own thinking, going through a structured thinking process, a structured thinking tool that helps you get really, really clear on how you want to pursue your entrepreneurial freedom, how you want to live your life ultimately. As I said, every important business decision that I've made that affected me both personally and professionally has come inside of a Strategic Coach workshop. My income, my net worth has gone at least 8 times since I started. And I'm not sure that I would have taken the time to really think about what I personally wanted if I just never showed up at a coach workshop. So the amount of money I've spent, I've made probably 100x off of those decisions. It's not really a question. It's not really a thing, oh, can I afford it? Or there's an ROI there? It will be an ROI. Now, if you don't fully engage in the thinking and you don't fully engage in a workshop and you're sort of phoning it in and just showing up, and if you're on virtual, turning your camera off, or if you're in person taking phone calls in the middle of a workshop, then you're not going to get any return because you're not putting anything into it. But if you show up and you just be open-minded, go through the thinking exercise, you'll get value out of it that's exponential compared to what you pay. So my dream is that every single company who is running EOS, their visionary is in Strategic Coach. That is absolute heaven for us, because Strategic Coach is what I would refer to as the operating system for the entrepreneurial mind. And so EOS then is how we execute with discipline and accountability throughout the entire organization, where you go in your Strategic Coach workshop, You get really, really crystal clear on what you want and what you want to have happen inside your business. You come then to your team, you get it integrated in, all those ideas into your VTO, your Vision Traction Organizer. You get your team on the same page with where you're going, and then you go and execute. That's what the difference between strategic coach and EOS is. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I've used it myself. That's the way we use it at EOS Worldwide. Both myself and my integrator, Kelly Knight, are in coach. We get just tremendous value ourselves. And it's all about clarity of thinking, setting up our strategy, giving us tools to think about our thinking. And we use those tools throughout our team to get really clear on, for example, what our rocks will be for the next quarter. We'll do an impact filter on a rock, sell ourselves on the rock because we're prepping for our quarterly coming up. We're like, this is really what we want to do, but is it the right thing to do? What would success look like for that? So it slows us down, allows us to think about our thinking. And as a result, we just get tremendously better results with coach concepts and thinking and EOS execution, discipline, and accountability. Dan's thinking and his history lessons and all the different things that go into the conversation just stretches your mind, stretches what's possible for you, gets you thinking much bigger, much wider, simpler and clearer. You go into a workshop, and what I do, I'll pick a topic or two that we're wrestling with, an issue that we're wrestling with, and I just write those things down. And as Dan says, you only see and hear what your brain is looking for, right? And so inevitably, I come out of every one of those workshops crystal clear on how to solve an issue. And then I go and we implement the EOS process in order to get those things delegated to who needs to get delegated to. And in a workshop, you're connecting with all those different visionary entrepreneurs. Dan's painting the context for that thinking to occur in, or all the coaches in Strategic Coach are doing that. And that just helps you get bigger results because you have bigger thinking. And well, it's funny. I was joking with Dan. I was like, it's like therapy. He's like, hey, Mark, it's always been therapy. Yes, it has. It is group therapy for entrepreneurs. There's no two ways about it. Can't avoid that. Just lean into it and have a good time with it.
I just have this notion that the monthly discussions I'm having with Mark, we're going to be talking about these things when I'm closing in on 100. I'm just few weeks away from being 78 years old. And that's halfway to my 156 goal. You know, I'm halftime. So I certainly plan to be fully coaching, fully creating, fully doing videos, whatever form that takes, in 2044 when I'm 100 years old. And I know that during that time between now and my 100th birthday, I'm going to have lots of conversations with Mark O'Donnell.